Hello, my name's Emma Cockrell. I'm a registered nutritional therapist, and nearly 40 years ago I first started teaching whole food and vegetarian cookery classes. So today the weather has changed. We're in week 2 of our social distancing and limiting how much we go out because of the COVID-19 virus. And so I wanted to look at a simple recipe that's warming and nourishing. We can adapt very easily for our own needs, but it requires just a very few ingredients from the store cupboard. In fact, I call this my store cupboard soup. All we need is some tomato puree or passata, depending what you've got in your store cupboard, and an onion. And this is going to be a lovely, rich tomato soup. I like to add basil, so we've got some dried basil here, but if you haven't got dried basil, you can add herbs of your choice, or you can add some spices if you prefer to take it that way with your flavouring. But this is for a basil and tomato soup. Now, often people think, oh, well, if I'm using cupboard ingredients, surely it can't be good for me. But tomatoes are an amazing ingredient because they contain a nutrient called lycopene. And that nutrient actually intensifies as the tomatoes are cooked. So cooked tomatoes, tomato puree, tomato passata are actually richer in lycopene than the raw tomatoes. So this is quite an interesting fact and something that we can get hold of and incorporate into our diets quite easily. Lycopene has got many beneficial properties. Not least, it can help us protect our skin against the effects of the harmful sun rays. So it's quite a good idea at this time of year to get lots of tomato products into the diet, particularly those rich in lycopene, to give our skin a little bit more protection as the warmer weather begins to come, hopefully. So today we're looking at this tomato and basil soup. Very simple. All you need is the passata or tomato puree and an onion. So if you've got nothing else left in your cupboard, you can produce a warming soup for you and the whole family. So the ingredients are for about 4. I'm going to be halving that for what I'm doing. But for 4 you want to have 2 onions. So again, just start off by finely chopping that onion. Take the outer leaves off, and we're going to cook this in some extra virgin olive oil. You can use coconut oil if you rather, and if you want something particularly luxurious and you're alright with dairy products, you can cook it in butter. So just chop it finely. So I go across one way and then across the other, and that will give you the nice little cubes of onion. And this one. So to serve 4, you want to do about 2 onions. Okay, I'm going to stop there. So pop that in a pan. And with that, put about a tablespoon of your extra virgin olive oil, or your coconut oil, or your butter. Now, if you're using olive oil, add just a tiny drop of water there, because we don't want that oil to get too hot. So about a tablespoon of water. And then we're going to put the lid on, and we're going to steam fry it. So keep it over a medium heat, not too hot. And that way the onions will cook through without catching, without burning, because we don't want that oil to get too hot. If you're cooking with butter or coconut oil, then it doesn't matter quite so much if the heat rises a little bit more. But with olive oil, we want to keep that temperature just slightly low. So pop that onto the stove and cook it over a low heat until the onions are translucent, and you can see I've got some ready prepared here. So all we need to do with that is then pop it in a blender. I've got a handheld blender here, but you can use a food processor or a mixer. So pop those in there. And with that, we're going to put For your 2 onions, we'd use around a whole jar of tomato puree, so that's about 300 grams. So for this amount I'm using about 150 grams. And if you're making a full amount of 2 onions, you'd use 1.5 litres of water. I'm going to be using about 3/4 litre. But we're not going to put all of that into the blender, we're just going to put enough to just cover those onions. And then we're going to blend that down. So those onions are completely pulverised and mashed down. And at that stage, put it into the pan with the rest of the water. There we go. And that is your basic soup. To that we're going to season and flavour. What I didn't mention was while you're cooking that onion, you can add in some lovely garlic. 1 or 2 cloves of garlic, crush that in, and that will bring a lovely flavour. If you haven't got fresh garlic, use some dried garlic. But 2 are, if you see that, that's quite a thick sauce there. You can leave it just there and use it as a sauce for all sorts of lovely vegetarian dishes, vegetarian burgers, things like that. But we're going to just water that down a little bit to create a soup consistency. There we are. And to that, I'm going to add some ground onion, some dried and ground onion, not onion salt. Can you see that? You can find it in the condiments with all the other herbs and spices. And we're just going to add about a teaspoon of that dried onion, dried ground onion, and about a teaspoon of dried basil. This really does bring a fresh taste to this soup. You can add a little bit more, 1 to 2 teaspoons of that basil, and you can add more or less according to taste. If you don't like the basil flavour, you can of course use chives or oregano, but basil really does bring a freshness. And there, that's it, that's our soup. I can't tip that any further to show you, otherwise it will fall out. But that simply needs to be warmed up and then served. It's that simple, it's that quick, it's that easy. And you can always produce a fresh soup, and you're not compromising. You've got the passato or the tomato puree, but remember that that lycopene, that fantastic nutrient that's so helpful for supporting health in so many ways, actually intensifies when you use tomatoes that are ready cooked. So this is packed with nutrients. So just warm that through, and you can serve that for a warming lunch or keep it for a sauce for an evening meal. So I hope you enjoy that, and tune in next time. I'm going to be showing you how to do a flatbread to serve alongside this tomato soup. Bye bye for now.